highly anticipated third season of the Single Dads Unplugged, where we embark on the profound exploration of the unique challenges and triumphs faced by single fathers. This season, we delve deep into the realm of emotional resilience, unraveling the layers of strength that single dads exhibit as they navigate the complexities of parenthood on their own, from coping with the emotional roller coaster of solo parenting to finding solace in unexpected places. Our episodes aim to inspire and empower single fathers on their journey. In Season 3, our focus extends beyond the individual, shining a spotlight on the invaluable bonds forged between single dads and their children. We bring you heartfelt stories of connection and growth, showcasing the remarkable ways in which these fathers nurture and strengthen the familial ties that define their lives. Moreover, we address the crucial intersection of financial and emotional well-being, offering practical insights and advice to help single dads not only survive, but thrive in their role as primary caregivers. As we navigate the intricate landscape of co-parenting challenges, our aim is to provide a supportive space for single fathers to share experiences and glean wisdom, fostering a sense of community and resilience in the face of adversity.
Welcome to Single Dads Unplugged Season 3. I'm your host, Tembizo Pagati. We are all about helping dads become better fathers to their kids and also creating bonds and breaking stereotypes. This time around, I would like to introduce you to my first guest, Kyle Brummer. Kyle is from Hereford Group, and he would like to talk to us a little bit more about financial planning for single dads or parents, generally speaking. Kyle, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Maybe talk to us a little bit about what Hereford Group does as it relates to financial planning, and maybe take us through what the work that you've done as well through actually advising parents around co-parenting and financial planning before we get to the question.
Perfect. Just so the Hereford Group is one of the biggest NDPs for Liberty South Africa. Company is just over 30 years old. We've got branches around the country, Cape Town, Durban, Johannesburg. We've got an international footprint in Australia and Canada at the moment as well. The group has currently got just over 250 advisors that look after clients. So I've been with the group since 2013 now. I've been in the financial industry since 2008. Yeah. And it's been a journey. It's exciting. It's got its challenges, but it's one of those things where I think as a financial advisor, when you're meeting new people and you can help people, you get people to retirement or someone loses a loved one and you can give them a check and make sure that their family's looked after. It's very rewarding.
That's amazing. You and I were talking the other day about the importance of financial planning, not just for single dads, but for families. I mean, why is this so important, especially when fathers are co-parenting with someone they don't live with?
100%. So I think, one of the biggest challenges that we've got as South Africans is how the underinsurance on people in general. Lack of knowledge when it comes to financial planning for themselves as well as for their loved ones. And the scary factor is that South Africans are trillions of rands underinsured, and we've got a very, very small percentage of people that can actually retire comfortably in this country. Sure. And when it comes to the full financial planning for individuals, there's a lot of advisors out there that try and sell a product to a client without understanding what their need is. Mm-hmm. And financial planning and wealth management, if you want to look at it in a bigger picture, is understanding a need and finding a solution. Sure. The product is secondary to what the solution needs to be for the client. Mm-hmm. And I think the more people start engaging in the news or MoneyWeb or learning about what's going on in the world and the country, the better they'll have an understanding of what it is that they need to achieve. And people, don't realize that this thing called inflation actually hurts us. And not many people understand it, and they think, oh, okay, I've got retirement planning, I've got life cover, and if something happens to me or if I retire, I'll be fine. But they don't realize that R1,000,000 in today's terms in 15 or 20 years' time is not worth R1,000,000 anymore.
I'm glad you mentioned 15 to 20 years' time, because I also want to touch on this long-term financial security, especially as it relates to benefiting the child. And why is this important? Because we shouldn't be just looking at short-term only.
No, for sure. So, when it comes to minor kids, and when I talk about minor kids under the age of 18 years old, the number one thing that a parent, single dad, single mom, even parents in general need to make sure that they've done is that they've got their will and testament in place. If there's a testamentary trust that needs to be established, because you're going to have guardians listed, and the one thing that you don't want is you build up this asset or this wealth and something happens to you and you leave it to the guardians and they squander all of your hard-earned money for your kids. So the foundation of financial planning for me is always making sure that there's a will and testament done, and that is done correctly, first of all. And one of the things that you need to look at is when you've got minor kids, kids from the ages of, let's say, newborn to 5 or 6 years old, they haven't started their school journey yet. They may be in preschool, or they may have a family member looking after them at that point. So there's a lot of aspects that come in. And again, when it comes down to the financial planning, you're looking at the inflation. What is the costing of schooling? What is all of that? And I think parents and financial advisors don't understand their clients properly when they're asking questions. They're asking to make a sale and not asking to understand.
To understand the
and
situation.
100%.
That's very important.
You need to understand if something happens to you, who's looking after these kids? If nothing happens to you, what's going to happen to the kids? What are your goals? What schools do you want to send your kids to? What varsity do they want to go to? When your kids get older, do you understand what they want to become? And I think as parents, it's our responsibility to make sure that we put these kids through the best possible education we can. The kids didn't ask to be here. We brought them into this world. Exactly. So we need to make sure that we look after them and give them the best possible life that we can,
I want to move. I'm glad you're mentioning financial planning and budget. I want to move to this budgeting strategy. Budgeting can be a very crucial aspect of single parenting. What practical tips, strategies would you recommend for single parents or single dads specifically to create and maintain budget for their kids in such a way that it becomes a consistent tradition? It's not just a once-off thing.
100%. So this is one of the things that we're trying to get right with our clients, and is to start teaching people from school already how to budget. Because in school you're taught on how to go out there and make money, and when you make money, no one teaches you how to keep it. Exactly. So I think that the number one thing to budgeting is to look at what your take-home pay is, or what your monthly earning is. And it can be different. You can be in corporate, you can be in sales, you can earn commission, and you need to look at it. So if you're a commission earner, look at an average. So take your last 6 months average and work on that, or even go work on your lowest month of earnings. And when it comes to budgeting, the discussion we had, I said to you, is the number one thing I would recommend is having a 6-month backup of savings immediately. That should be your goal number one, is to create a safety net, in your bank account, in a money market account, a pure save account, anything like that.
And you need to start early, I would imagine.
100%. And that's, you mentioned starting early. The thing is, if you start saving in your 20s, you've got a long journey head start. And
don't pull out.
Exactly. They say, the statistics say that in your 20s, you should be saving between 10 to 15%.
Wow. In your 20s?
In your 20s. So when you start working, if you get to 30s and you haven't started, that ramps up to 20, 25%. And if you wait till you're in your 40s, it's almost 50 to 60% that you need to save in order to retire comfortably. That's not to cater or budget. So the factor is that the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be long term. But the starting point doesn't have to be drastic. It needs to become a habit, because when we come across clients that have started saving early, or have they been taught by their parents to start saving early, it's a lot easier for them to then go into the financial aspect and go into investment strategies and look at different options because, you know, and a lot of people do save. That a lot of people do put 500 Rand into their money market account, but they're not stringent about it. It will be, okay, this month I'll put 500, next month I can put 2,000, the next 2 months I'm not going to do anything. Yeah. And that's where you're...
It can't be intermittent. It has to be consistent.
Correct.
And you have to have a long-term goal.
Correct.
I was talking to a friend of mine about how financial issues create issues between parents. And would you say this is one of the key challenges that creates problems between parents, especially when they no longer live together?
100%.
Yeah.
So the two biggest factors I think that cause divorce or separation or feuds is firstly financial.
Okay.
It stems from financial, and second is communication.
Communication,
and it could be communication around the financial that is not being done properly.
Exactly.
You know, I've seen the closest families fall apart over finances.
Based on that.
You know, someone passes away and all of a sudden they start fighting over who's getting what, and that furniture's mine and that house is mine. And again, that stems down to the proper financial planning around the will and testament to make sure that doesn't happen.
And talking about it up front.
Correct. And I think when it comes to co-parenting, single parenting, or even being joint parents to a child, is having open communication about finances. You know,
it can be very uncomfortable, but do it anyway.
It's extremely uncomfortable because a lot of people, you know, meet in their 20s and that they've already started earning and they've built up something for themselves. And now you meet someone and you fall in love and you want to get married, but you don't have that conversation. And when you don't have that conversation, you don't know where anybody stands and you automatically start assuming. And assuming something is always going to lead to a horrible outcome.
Bad, I want to turn to this next topic around child education. I think I told you a story. A friend of mine told me many years ago that his girlfriend was pregnant, and he was very excited, and he was a very young lad. So I asked him, "How much have you put aside for this child?" He looked at me strangely because this was unborn child. And why is it important for parents to plan for child education at an early stage, even before the child is born?
So we did have this discussion, and the thing is, when it comes to child education and saving for education, I think people are very unaware of the cost of schooling these days.
Sure.
You know, and depending again where you want to send your child to school, but your average preschool costing for anywhere, you know, for a semi-private or private schooling is anywhere upwards of 5,000 to 8,000 Rand a month.
Yes.
And if some of those schools don't even provide food or anything like that, so now all of a sudden it's school fees, it's food, it's extramurals because
overseas trips.
100%. And how do you explain to a 3 or 4 year old that they can't do the dancing that their friends are doing or the swimming lessons
and they can't be part of a trip? Because sometimes some trips are not just extra; they're part of the program.
Correct. Right? And if you, in investing or saving, the longer you do it, the more you get. It's not about how can we quickly make money. Sure. It's you know, everyone says it's about the time you spend in the market, not timing the market.
Not timing the market.
It's not to say, you know, it's almost impossible for anyone to say, okay, if I put 100,000 Rand into the market today, is the market going to go up or is it going to go down? But if I said I'm going to put 1,000 Rand every month for the next 20 years or 18 years or 15 years, we can project that it is going to go up, it is going to go down. But if you are consistently buying in, you can also be buying in at the lows, which means that you're purchasing more units, which means that your outcome will be higher at the end of the day. They've done a study through our analytics team, and they've said that if you went in for 20 years, and if you just missed a few months by not being invested properly, it has a massive impact. You can almost lose 5% annualized return compounding by not being properly. And they say that one of the greatest wonders of the world is compound interest. Yes. You know, if you look at it and you say, okay, 15, 20 years, I'm going to just put 1,000 Rand. And we've done studies around taking out a small investment when your child is born, 200 Rand a month. Okay, 200 Rand a month, no increase on premium, and you just pay that for 18 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
When your child turns 18, you give that to them as a birthday gift. Someone started saving at the age of 18 would have to be putting 1,000 Rand away a month with increases right till the age of 55 just to get to where they are.
Just to get to where they are.
That just shows you that the 18 years prior to that being invested in the market at a much lower premium has a much more drastic outcome at the end result.
And again, back to our earlier discussion around starting earlier. I want to say this, dads in our network are not all of them are financial savvy. And how important is it for them to stay close to a financial advisor, even if they don't live together with the mother, so that they track the markets, they understand how the world is shifting, and they've got this financial well-being on their side, and actually they plan together as co-parents.
Yeah, so I mentioned to you earlier, choosing a financial advisor is like choosing a family doctor.
Sure.
So there has to be a synergy. You have to feel like you can trust the person that you're going to walk this journey with. For me as a financial advisor, when I get a client on board, that client almost becomes like a part of my family.
Sure.
I want to know everything about
You have
them.
to know them intimately.
I want to know their husband, their wife, their kids, their grandkids, and if I can give advice to single dads out there that want to deal with financial advisors, there's an interview process just as much as the advisor wants to deal with you. You can also interview if you want to deal with that advisor, because it needs to be a long-term journey. The understanding and the conversations that go in depth on what advice is given forward. The questions that will be asked is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you want to open a business? Do you want to go into property investing? And as an advisor, we give advice based on those discussions. And if you're chopping and changing, it becomes difficult to stay on track with your personal financial planning, because every advisor is going to have a different outlook and opinion on what that is.
Yeah.
So staying very close to your advisor 100% needs to be done. Being honest with your advisor is also a big factor.
Of course, not hiding information.
Correct.
Otherwise, how do they advise?
100%. The more information you give us, the more we can do. But also trusting that stays confidential.
Of course.
So every conversation, 100%, is like when you talk to your doctor, you talk to your lawyer. Financial advisors, they constantly having to study and learn and watch the markets and do CPD points and keep up with the changing world that is out there. And asking questions all the time is good. Don't think that if you phone your advisor once a month that you irritating him, and even if you are, it doesn't matter. He gets paid to advise you to answer those questions. It's like no one complains about paying a lawyer when he invoices you 2,000 Rand, but when the advisor's making commission or charging you fees, everyone feels bad. No, I'll wait for my annual review. And that also then sometimes doesn't come around.
It doesn't come around.
Yeah.
I need to say this to our viewers out there, that season 3 is about emotional well-being, emotional fitness for single dads, but also emotional resilience. And I want to ask Kyle how financial planning can impact, adversely or otherwise, the financial well-being or even the emotional well-being of a couple, especially a couple that's co-parenting.
So I think it stems down to the first statement I made about making sure that you've got a safety net or a backup. Because I think one thing that COVID taught us is that the world can change very quickly.
Absolutely.
In the blink of an eye, all of a sudden, you're sitting at home for 3 weeks and you're not earning an income, and there's companies out there putting you on short time and retrenching. Now, having that safety net mitigates the stress of that happening. Because if that happens and you say, you know what, it's happened to me, I can take this in my stride, I know that I've got a backup, I can cover all my expenses for the next 6 months. I also don't need to rush into something that I'm not going to enjoy. I can take a little bit of time and find something that's going to suit my personality and what I want to do. And I think that emotional well-being, again, for single dads, it takes away the stress of when you get home, you're worrying about something. You can be at home and be present.
Other areas of your life.
Correct. And I think, we also chatted about how to be a single dad. And I think one of the things that I've recognized is is kids don't want you around. They want you present.
Present.
They don't want you sitting in the same room or being home. That's not being a dad.
Yeah.
You know, they want you.
want you
They want you to color in with them, or go kick the soccer ball, or go for a walk. You know, just to spend that quality time with them, and you'll find that you'll get more out of your kids doing that for shorter periods of time than spending 6 or 7 hours just under the same roof with them, and that resilience comes in as a family as well, husband and wife, making sure that they're both on the same page.
Sure.
You know, I think one of the things that I've read is teach your kids that you love your partner.
Yeah.
You know, like date your partner with your kids around.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think also one of a lot of things that happen is people get lost in their kids sometimes, and they lose their partner.
Yeah.
And your kids eventually grow up and move out, and then
grow out, yeah.
hold on.
I wanna turn to just because we've got one more topic that I want us to touch on before we close. I want to talk to you now as a dad. You were telling me about the fact that you're raising your daughter from the previous marriage, and how has this relationship been for you, where you've got a current relationship but you have to co-parent with someone else? What about financial decisions around your daughter from the previous marriage?
Yes, yeah, so it's my son from my
It's a son,
previous.
sorry.
Yeah, so also,
Apologies.
you know, one of those young and stupid people that we've got in this world. Got married extremely young, you know, got married, had a child, and I think you get to your mid-20s and you realize, you know, what's going on? Where's my life going? What do we? And we always said that we were never going to just stay married for the sake of our child.
Okay.
And the reason we said that is because being in an unhealthy home is not conducive to your child's growth. And exposing your child to mom and dad screaming at each other all the time is not something that becomes viable for them. So we always said that if we ever came to that, we would rather be separate in happy homes and raise them as a happy child. And I think any divorce, I don't think there's ever a nice divorce. Okay, so any divorce, I think what needs to happen is there needs to be emotion taken out of the situation, as hard as that may sound. And it boils back down to the communication, and having open communication, and not trying to actually hurt your partner. You know, a lot of people out there, they go after the money, or they go after everything because they're just trying to get back at them. Take it from each other's perspective. Just remember that your priority is that child. Your priority, again, is to make sure that child is going to get the best education, that child is going to get access to both homes and being around both parents, not just being kept away. And you can see your dad or you can see your mom every 2-3 weeks. So that was one of the things that we did. And I think the financial discussion becomes, you know, where are each of you in your lives? You know,
and be honest about it.
Correct.
And sometimes you were saying earlier, you shouldn't hide information. I mean, for your partner to assist you, you should be open and honest about it.
Sometimes you're gonna feel like something's not fair, but life's not fair in general. And like I said, you brought that child in the world. If you are in a high-end corporate and your wife was a stay-at-home home executive, you can't expect that now everything must be 50-50. So you must also remember that a child is always going to look at what you give them. And financial is one of the things that you give them. Yes, you can't buy their love, but are you fighting with mom all the time because you don't want to give the money for my school fees or for my medical aid or for my groceries, or because I've got a school trip or need clothes? You know, how do you treat my mom even though you guys are not together anymore? You know, there was still a point in your life where you loved that person.
This seems to be working seamlessly for you. Well, what about time allocated to actually spending bonding time with your son? I mean, how do you allocate that, and how do you do that while you've got commitments to your current relationship?
So again, communication. You know, it's my current wife and my ex-wife, they get along. You know, there's no animosity in the relationship. Like we don't hold on to gripes or grudges. You know, and if I want to see my son 4 times a month, then my ex will let me see him 4 times a month,
Sure.
because there's an understanding that
But
he.
it's arranged and it's agreed upon up front, and it's
It's a discussion. Can I see my son next weekend? Yeah, no problem. I'll fetch him on Friday, drop him off on Sunday. You know, again, it's understand. Obviously, not taking full advantage of it, because there needs to be stability. But you know, he's 12. He's going to be 13 now. He's going to be coming. You know, he's still young, but he's coming into his teenage years. He's also going to start making decisions for himself.
Yeah.
But we've never forced anything on him. If he doesn't want to come, then he doesn't come. But if your child doesn't want to spend time with you, I think that's where you need to learn that there's something missing. They need something in their life, time, conversation, something's bugging them. And I think as single parents, you also need to be alert to that.
Absolutely.
Alert to your child's personality, what's happening at school. You know, bullying and social media and all that kind of stuff these days is quite big.
Absolutely.
But as a single dad, I think from that aspect, making sure that is, you know, just recognize that.
The last thing I want to look at, and you and I were talking the other day around estate planning, financial planning, but also insurance being essential component of financial planning. How do you advise some of the dads in our situation around making sure that financial security in terms of long-term financial planning is there? Are there nuggets, ideas, strategies that you would maybe advise us to ensure that we've got adequate coverage to protect our family's financial situation?
100%. So I think, you know, estate planning, you could probably do a whole season just on this aspect, because it can go into such depth. You know, there's so many laws around, you know, if I'm leaving assets to this person or my spouse or to my kids, you know, what are the cost factors involved? There's estate duty, there's running of testamentary trust that we said. But I think one of the main things that single dads can look at is, if you work for corporate and you've got a pension fund, understanding the difference between approved and unapproved benefits. You know, the one is taxed, the one is not taxed. So when you look at, okay, I've got 10 million rand life cover, is it approved or unapproved? Because if it's taxed, all of a sudden there's a lot of money that's going to be coming off of that. You know, understanding the beneficiary splits and how you leave things to people, to minors or spouses or family members, making sure that the market assessment when you're looking at your portfolio is done correctly. It's not just about bells and whistles and who can give what. It's saying, okay, what does this premium that I'm taking out now look like in the next 10 or 15 years? Because it doesn't help that you take cover out for your loved ones and for estate planning, and in 5 to 7 years' time, it becomes unaffordable because
it's not realistic.
Exactly, and that's the thing, is have the discussions with your advisors, because every single client is different.
Absolutely.
Every client structure is different. You know, from a corporate perspective, you on a pension fund, you get pooled. You like, okay, listen, this is what you earn, this is how much cover you're going to get, and that's what it's going to cost you. But when it comes to personal financial planning with your advisors, there's no two people that are the same. It doesn't happen.
I like what you said about that, because understanding your client intimately and their set of circumstances, their background, their aspirations and ambition is paramount. How would you advise single dads out there watching and listening to us around leveraging support from a network like ours in terms of making themselves available, allowing themselves to be vulnerable, seeking advice, and coming to people like yourselves? How would you advise them to use a platform in a community like ours to get help?
So I think if you go back in history and you look at the quickest growing businesses, they've all grown organically. It's all done internally through a referral structure or getting to know people. You know, I'm going to mention like the BNI network. Like, look how big that is. And that's small pods of people getting together, having discussions, introducing and meeting one another. So something like this is going to be paramount for single dads or single parents in general, to come on and ask questions, or, you know, watch the show and understand and comment on that, because I think the more questions they give you, the more information you can give them. You know, and if they come on the show, make themselves vulnerable. People are not going to judge you if you're vulnerable. You know, if you show your true person, you know, people will actually care. one thing is as humanity, we are caring individuals.
Yeah.
Yes, there are people out there that don't, but in general, we do care. You want to support and help and make sure that people get the right information.
Sure.
And I think, like I said to you, I think what you're doing is really great, because from a single dad's perspective, they do need guidance. And you said there's always two paths. It's
Yes.
like, how do I be a good dad? Or if I just go this way is easier, but this way is hard, but it's more
hard,
rewarding.
But it's more rewarding, and
Yeah.
it's more important. And again, we always say in this network that it's all about the interest and the needs of the child. And you and I were talking the other day. I mean, we can fight with our spouses or ex-spouses, the way we want, but
Yeah.
ultimately the child doesn't care about those squabbles, and they just want to live a good life, and with our support, surely they can learn a lot from us. And I also want to say to people watching out there, financial issues, Carl was telling me the other day, is one of the top issues that causes breakups and divorces. And if it's not taken care of, especially when you're co-parenting and not living together with the child, it becomes a big issue.
Yeah.
Last thing that perhaps I forgot to touch on, are there maybe case studies or maybe some of the use cases that you've seen for where actually parents or co-parents can turn around their financial situation by just seeking the right advice?
100%.
Yeah.
100%, and it stems from everything that we've just discussed. It's proper budget planning.
Yeah.
And an advisor that is going to do proper budget planning is going to understand your budget, not just from an earning and spend point of view, but is going to look at the liabilities within your estate as well.
It's almost looking at the balance sheet.
For
of
sure.
the
So we
person,
need to
yeah.
understand,
Yeah.
what debt is there on credit cards, personal loans,
Yeah.
overdrafts. Understanding the interest rate that each of those have
It's
got.
attractive, yeah.
And then how do we mitigate that? And I think what a lot of people don't like to do is short-term sacrifice for long-term goals.
For long-term goals.
So budget planning, you might get an advisor that's going to say to you guys, listen, like DSTV, Netflix, all these small expenses, if we
Yeah.
cut this in 6 to 9 months, we can have you out of debt.
Wow.
And it's because if we take that R1,000 contribution and push it towards your highest interest paying liability, we can get that done. And
Yes.
you start then redirecting. And
Yes.
it also doesn't help saving when you're in a lot of debt. You need to be
No,
out of
you
debt
have to be
to
out of-
create wealth.
To be able to create wealth.
Exactly, and there's been plenty studies that have been done, and I've helped many clients turn their life around by just understanding and working. You both have to work it though. You have to
Yeah.
work the situation and the solution. If you're not prepared to do it, the advice is going to fall on deaf ears.
But
And
also, I forgot to ask you the other day, I mean, what can some of the dads do to actually teach their young kids early around financial planning?
So responsibility, because responsibility is the foundation. So, don't just give your child pocket money for the sake of giving them pocket money, and don't give them cash. So I think what a lot of dads should do or could do
Yeah.
is give them chores. Tell them, you make your bed, brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Don't give me a hard time when it comes to dinner. Wake up by yourself and make your bed before school.
Because
Then
if they learn early and those basics,
yeah,
it becomes
and
big...
put a financial aspect to that, and then show them, show them their bank account, show them an interest-bearing account or unit trust,
Teach
and
them to
say,
save early.
listen, if we put in 100 rand a month, then at the end of the year, let's have a look what's in there. So it's not going to be 1,200 rand.
Yeah.
It can be 1,350 rand. So you made 100. Teach them what that growth in
looks like.
investments is doing.
Thank you so much, Carl. We've come to the end of our conversation. I really have to thank you for making time to chat to us. And for those of you watching, in season 4, we're going to bring Carl and other experts around financial advice to share more insights with us so that we continue to support our single dads or single parents out there to become financial savvy and do more to support their kids financially. I need to thank you. Thanks, my friend.
Brilliant.
All the best.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Likewise.